Honorable Minister of Justice and Attorney General representing the President of the Republic, His Excellency Adam Barrow, Honorable Dr. Omar Touray, President of the ECOWAS Commission, Honorable Excellency Bakari B. Dabo, former Vice President, and our very own Mama Lady Chile Jawara, who is the chief patron of our organization, KaiaraCLO. She has given us a surprise visit, and it's indeed a pleasant surprise visit. Thank you, Mama Chile, for coming. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I'd like also to recognize the representatives of the Chinese Embassy. We are honored for your visit. Distinguished invitees, ladies and gentlemen, tonight we'll have an historic event. Historic in the sense that we are going to talk about a figure who is recognized not only by Gambians but by the entire world as one of the greatest sons and greatest leaders of Africa since independence. And that person is the late President of the Republic, Sir Dawda Kaiaraba Jawara. You may have seen copies of the program for tonight. It's very simple. We'll start with opening remarks by the chairman of KaiaraCLO, and our next speaker will be the former Vice President, Bakari Dabo, who will give anecdotes of his encounter with Sir Dawda. These are just going to be light-hearted reflections of what Sir Dawda was like and how it was like to live with him. Then we'll go on to the next speaker who will give...
Good evening, Your Excellencies. Good evening, Dr. Omar Aliieu Touray, the President of the ECOWAS Commission. Good evening to Mama Chile, our mom, and our chief patron. This is indeed a wonderful, wonderful surprise. We are happy that you are up and about, and whenever Sir Dawda's name is mentioned, you cannot sit still. We are very pleased that you could join us. It's a great honor for me personally to be asked to lead the efforts of reviving the memories and the rich leadership legacy that Sir Dawda has given our nation. It's a great honor because all the members of our Board of Trustees are far more distinguished than I am. They are far more experienced than I am. I'm probably among the youngest of the founding fathers and founding mothers of KaiaraCLO. So we are very pleased this evening that Gambians, very, very distinguished Gambians, have chosen to share part of their evening with us to remember perhaps our greatest leader since independence. We are very pleased that the call of KaiaraCLO has been heard by really very, very distinguished Gambians, and particularly we are pleased that the People's Republic of China's embassy in the Gambia have done us the honor of attending this centenary inaugural lecture. My task is just to talk very briefly about KaiaraCLO, how it started, and what our objectives are really. We established KaiaraCLO in 2022, in November of 2022. Following the proper registration as a company limited by guarantee. We did that deliberately because we did not want it to become like any of those foundations that engages in mere idolization or mere gestures. We established it principally to learn the leadership legacy, especially when it comes to conservation, what Sir Dawda was really about. The Banjul Declaration is our charter, and from that declaration, Sir Dawda says this word, that the care for the environment is everybody's concern. Everybody's concern. So it's an inclusive organization, principally. Secondly, we also wanted to claim the legacy, not as blood children of Sir Dawda, but as intellectual heirs, that public life could be very, very rewarding. Public life could be very inclusive. I remember in 1984, when Sir Dawda turned 60, I was a very young teenager, still consider myself very young. We had his birthday musical requests. Then we only had Radio Gambia. And for the first time, for a young teenager like me who was curious about a lot of things, when the radio broadcaster asked him, which song would you like for us to play for you on your birthday? Sir Dawda said that there is this Russian composer called Tchaikovsky. And his musical score in D minor, I mean, the level of sophistication that such a choice conveyed to young teenagers was something else. It was from that time that we started looking at someone like me, looking at Sir Dawda as really a modern man, a man of the world, a man of global dimensions. I recall this incident because when I went to university, my contemporaries, Gambians, we all remember that conversation of Sir Dawda on radio. And we started listening to classical music and started appreciating the beauty of Tchaikovsky's music. So for a man of that temperament, for a leader of that stature, it would be unforgivable that all his works, all the great things he has done for this country should be forgotten in a relatively short period of time after his passing. This is why KaiaraCLO was formed, that we have a heritage upon which we can build a thriving, not only democratic and just society, but a society that is at peace with nature, a society that is able to put its ideas in front of the world, the philosophy of Tacito, the ideas of self-reliance and plurality in governance, in democracy. These are all things that Sir Dawda taught us so well. And we felt this legacy should be a part and parcel of the discussions. I know my brother, Mr. Ernest Obi, will talk a little bit about the activities, but I thought I would take this opportunity to have my own personal reminiscences about Sir Dawda and why we think the legacy must be claimed by all Gambians. I remember some years ago when I was the CEO of the Chamber of Commerce, he came very quietly to the trade fair we had at the stadium. And he was going around, people were cheering him, people were very warm to him. So I walked to him and I said, Sir Dawda, I have to tell you a story. I don't know whether you remember this story. Some years ago, like 35 years ago, I came to your office as a youth leader from Banjul, and we were talking about helping with the cleaning up of Banjul. We had these barrels, former barrels that contain oil. We cut it into two and we made it into dustbins. He said, is that Almani? I said, yes, Sir Dawda. He said, well, I remember you because my father's name was also Almani. So we have very, very vivid memories of Sir Dawda, his speech, his general geniality, and the sophistication I mentioned. I think we would do very well if we can teach our own children some of those values, because they are enduring values, they are meaningful values. The last story is my own encounter with the Banjul Declaration. In 1977, I was in primary school, in Winley Primary School, and I remember Mrs. Joyner, who was our principal. She had the Banjul Declaration in her office. And then, you know, you are just learning your ABCs. But the picture of the Banjul Declaration, really very fascinating. Very fascinating. And you would go, when you go to her office, normally for being a recalcitrant pupil, you would be taken there for some kind of punishment, but you will go and then you will see the Banjul Declaration and you will keep looking at it. It is only years later that we realize how important it is. And during the centenary year, we have met a cross-section of Gambians and presented it to them. And invariably, almost everybody of a certain generation will tell you about the fauna and flora. If you say Banjul Declaration, these two words are remembered there. So we feel on a day like this, it's good to personalize the encounter with Sir Dawda in the hope that other memories would be stirred. We are pleased that all of you could make the attendance. I see in the hall the former Solicitor General of the Gambia. I see the former Chairman of the National Investment Board, Ambassador Aliieu Touray, Mrs. Bensouda, Mr. Sharbel El Haj, entrepreneur, businessman. All of you are here to honor the memory of Sir Dawda, and we are very grateful to all of you. I cannot name all the names. I could, if we had time, because I think everybody here, I know them personally. I see Sheikh Imam Hamad Jaite, Dr. Ayopama, and really, this is it's a great day. I don't want to make it too solemn, too serious, but let us remember the work, Sir Dawda's life's work, and let us commit ourselves to building a Gambia that is in his image, a Gambia that he has given his personal stamp of identity, of humility, of graciousness. So on that note, I will end my introduction by thanking all of you for coming this evening and be part of this very historic lecture. Thank you very much for your time.
He is the chairman of the Kairaba Conservation and Leadership Organization. We call it KaiaraCLO for short. Indeed, Sir Dawda was everything to everybody. He is remembered not only because he was a Gambian president, but because of the things he stood for. And one of them was this Banjul Declaration, which you all see behind me. He was talking about the environment 47 years ago, and nobody took notice of it. But today we all know what is happening in the world and how communities are suffering because of the degradation of the environment. I will now call on our next speaker, His Excellency Bakari Dabo, who was Vice President, Minister of Finance, Minister of various ministries during Sir Dawda's time, to talk to us about Sir Dawda, the man. What is it like living with Sir Dawda? Your Excellency Bakari Dabo, you're welcome to the show.
Because somebody who had been in public life for several decades, first as a civil servant, later on as an active politician, rising through the ranks from Member of Parliament to Minister to President, and for many years. There is quite a lot to be said. But that leads a lot of people, when they cast their minds back on Sir Dawda, to simply to tend to remember only what there was to him in terms of what he is able to perform on the job. But that can lead people to overlook the fact that he was also a human being. And the sense of humor, which you asked me to reminisce on, forms part of his personality as a human being. It has been a privilege for me to have been associated with him from the work point of view. And I will try to remember one or two incidents, including demonstration on his part of a sense of humor in situations that arose. Maybe the first, in terms of going back in time, was when I was commissioner, called them divisional commissioner in Caravan, and I had the privilege of hosting Sir Dawda on one of his frequent tours in the countryside. It wasn't the kind of grand meet the farmer's tour. It was I remember clearly, it was just a visit he paid to Georgetown, and on his way back, it was planned by the party for him to address a rally in Farafenni. And as such, the program provided for him to leave Georgetown, come to Farafenni, early in the morning, come to Farafenni. But since he was going to have the morning free, he had agreed to make a detour somewhere along the line to go and try to address a particular issue, which was a party issue. And as commissioner, we went to the border between Caravan Division and Makati Division. I went to receive him from there. I came with him in his vehicle. He was always that considerate, that kind enough on such occasions to say I should join him in his vehicle. He did it for all commissioners anyway. So at the level of Ngien Sanjal, the community called Ngien Sanjal, I remember we stopped there because there was this patriarch called Vladimir Motagay, a remarkable community leader, was a very close personal friend of Sir Dawda. I found out that their relationship dated back to the period that Sir Dawda worked as a veterinary officer. Mota was a big cattle farmer. So we stopped there and spent some time with him there. The community was very delighted, very excited as usual to see Sir Dawda. Well, from there we headed for Bambali, where we had to have this confrontation meeting. Some issue had arisen between members of the communities around that area over a number of issues, but it spilled over into the party, and it was threatening the unity of the constituency party. So Sir Dawda found it necessary to stop over. He was convinced, and he said he would stop over and talk to them. But the meeting turned out to be very rowdy, very difficult to control. it was several factions came, and even to allow them to speak their piece and allow the other side to speak their piece and get Sadao to speak, it became a problem to maintain law and order. So I recall, and this is the little joke about Sadao, but it brought out a lot about his sense of humor, but also his experience and knowledge of local population. When it became very difficult for the chair of the meeting to get the feuding parties to allow even somebody else to speak, he rose up to his feet. Sadao rose up to his feet. Not at the moment when he was formally called, but he rose up to his feet as a way of really getting some quiet, peace and quiet. And when they achieved quietness, he said, addressing the two factions, he said to them in Manding that what you have said, I have listened to it. Contrary to the impression you have that I haven't heard your version, I've heard what you've had to say, I even have heard what you haven't said. Then he turned to the other group and said to them, look, what you have said, I listened to it very well, I heard it. What you left behind, I heard that also. And it had a magical effect of diffusing tension. There had been so much tension that I was personally even thinking that our meeting was going to fail. But he was able to diffuse tension and managed to get their attention to be able to deliver what he had by way of advice. And as I said, it's a sense of humor which was not aggressive, not harsh, but more in line with his own gentle nature. It was strong on wit and strong on subtlety. So he put this joke in a very subtle way, but still conveyed a very strong message across, and it worked very well. And I, from that day, came away with a lot of respect for the kind of experience he had in dealing with human beings. I can say a lot more about that incident, but I'll give you another one. This one, I think you have to go back to 1982, thereabouts. As a country, we were at the time in very bad terms with Colonel Gaddafi. If you say 81 in this country, most of you will remember Kukoi. There was a period when, even before Kukoi, we had started as a country to have some problems with meddlesomeness by Gaddafi in our internal affairs, leading us to a point where I think we even broke relations. with them. Yes, we even broke relations, diplomatic relations with them. And it wasn't only the Gambia. In neighboring countries. In 1979, when as ambassador to Dhaka, I presented my letters of credence to President Senghor. I remember very well. After the ceremony part, the practice was that he would withdraw the site office and would have a chat with. And I remember he was the first who told me, speaking to me in his very heavy Syrian accent, he said to me, "Wahal Jawara ne, Gaddafi." Gaddafi is somebody to be careful of, something to that effect. But that was the kind of relationship Gaddafi had with countries like ours. And then on top of it, we had Kukoi. And all that, at the time, we felt as a government about Gaddafi and what he was up to. So relations were broken off. But then we got to a stage where we started having reports that Gambians, just like some Senegalese, were being recruited and taken to Guinea and Libya, and they were receiving military training, which all looked very suspicious for somebody who's been accused of being subversive. For that kind of story to come, and there was truth in it, because I think some of you will remember Mansour Jai, broadcaster at the Radio Gambia. I mean, at the time, the story was that he was acting as an agent for Khalifa Niass, Ahmed Khalifa Niass, who's still alive, who was also involved in recruiting Gambians going there. So we took note of it. The government took note of it, and as usual in that kind of situation, the police, through their intelligence agency, had their eyes on who are going there, because we didn't have a law or power to stop Gambians from going there. But of course, anything we could do administratively to discourage Gambians from going, we did it. You know, for instance, if you had applied then for a passport, saying you want to go to Libya, most likely you wouldn't get it quickly. So anyway, that was a situation. We had a kind of cold relations with Libya. And the police, intelligence people doing their job with zeal, the usual zeal, took it upon themselves to try to monitor the presence or passage of Gambians through Libya. I don't know how they did it, but they were getting. Periodically, they would send a report, say, over the past 30 days, Gambians so and so, Gambians so and so were seen in Libya. So we will look at it. From what I got to know about Sir Dawda, he personally didn't take that very, very seriously. But anyway, we had to go through receiving that report and read it and take note of it. And in any case, nothing very serious came out. But I remember one afternoon I was in his office. I was in his vice president. I was no longer commissioner. I was in his office and to discuss some matter. We went through that discussion, concluded it, and we got to a stage where I was just waiting for him to say, well, I release you, go, or something like that. But as I noticed, he was sitting behind his desk and I was in front of him. I noticed he was very absorbed. He had some document, he was looking at it, absorbed. So I kept quiet, gave him time. Then at one point I saw him say, he sort of smiled and said to me, look, what he said, but let me, you take the list, you read it for yourself. So I took the list. It was a short list, about 7, 8, and some Gambian names, who I didn't know. He said to me, what sense do you make out of this? I said, well, this looks like the kind of report we get from the police. He said, yes, but what about the names? Do you know them? I said, no. Then he said, okay, let me have it back. I gave it back and he checked and spotted the actual number against a particular name and handed it back. I said, look at number 4. So I looked at number 4. I now don't remember, but that was a Jawara. The surname was Jawara, something Jawara. I said, well, this is Jawara. He said to me, this is Basadi's son. Basadi was his late brother. But people, I mean, maybe Chile, Basadi was a character of himself. So when he said it, I personally felt a bit embarrassed, and I expected that he also might be having some feeling of embarrassment. Then I said, well, but this sort of grumble underneath. He said to me, Bakari, Basadi, winning Gaddafi man diplomatic relations. The severing of links between Gambia and Libya, we as government decided it on behalf of the 1 million Gambians, not Basadi. Basadi was not affected by that. Again, it shows another witty side to his sense of he can make it at his own expense, but also say it in such a way that he explains the situation profoundly. For having known Sir Dawda and Basadi at the time, what that was telling me was that, well, look, there's nothing we can do about it. Nobody can make Basadi change his mind. So that was another example. If I have time, I'll give you one more. Yes. One more. And this one, which one can I think of now? Yes, I think, I don't know, I'm not clear in my mind which one, but there was this old Marabu man, not old, but more venerable Marabu. He used to be called Sheikh Yaqub. from Mauritania, and a good number of Muslims are Qadriya. These are the Qadriya sect, and a lot of them adopt these people in Mauritania as their guides, religious guides. Evidence of it that many prominent families have got at least one son named Sharif, and that always means they belong to that sect. So this, at this particular point in time, it was in the 80s again, it was reported that it was in the practice during the the dry season, for them to come and tour their disciples. But it's also an occasion when the disciples are supposed to give adiyah. So this man paid a visit, and he was staying with my own uncle, Sagali Bojan in Cambodia. And there were reports coming that, people were going in droves to the place to visit to get prayers and get some money, blah, blah, blah. Then, one morning, Sir Dawda called me, said, look, your uncle has sent a message asking for me to give an appointment to the Sharif, the Sheikh. So you come and join me. So after a short while, the delegation arrived, big delegation. The Sharif himself with his followers, and the other hosts, Gambian personalities. I remember a lot of them. Fabala Kanute, Alaji Malang, a lot of them kept. The whole sitting room was full, and the point I'm trying to bring, Sir Dawda is not a fanatic. Not only is not a fanatic, but he's also one who is very conscious of the fact that what he owes, what he has, or what he owes it to Gambian people above anything else. When this delegation came, we sat down, and Sajali, my uncle, who was a man of many seasons, took the floor and said, very flowery speech. This man has come from time immemorial. These people are our guides. They've come, and blah, blah, a lot of talk. And introduced him and said how right it was that Sir Dawda allowed him to come to be received. And then somebody else spoke, then the Khalif spoke through an interpreter. He said a lot of things, but the point I want to touch on is that he pleaded with Sir Dawda for food, arguing that his talibis back home, they have a lot of talibis, and that there was drought in Mauritania, and that he pleaded for them in a very passionate way. And Sir Dawda was very calm. He just kept quiet, listen. And when he finished, said a few other things, and Sir Dawda stormed came to him. He welcomed him. He said, yes, I do recognize that it's a long historic relationship of disciple and guide between you and us. It's good that you've come, people are welcome. And he said all the nice things, perfect diplomat. But he said nothing about the food. Said nothing about the food. So when he was ready, almost saying, inviting them to say Fatiha go or something like that, somebody sprang from the crowd. What about the food? What about the food? What about the food? Well, Sir Dawda was displeased. But it's not the type who, as you know, can easily show his anger. But he just draw his face and get very quiet. Until the man spoke and from protested that you don't ignore such a request coming from this man. You must do something. So they just kept quiet, looking at him. Then, after a while, the man was asked to sit down, because that was not the way he should talk. Then Sir Dawda then said to the interpreter to tell the man, to the sheikh, that yes, he sympathized with him for needing money for needing food to go and feed his large school of talibis, but that this phenomenon that led to food shortage is also what affected us in the Gambia here. In very gentle but very clear words. and that what little we have really is for his talibans who are here in the campus. Again, you could see this fellow agitating. I don't even mention his name here. He was agitating. He said, no. If Sir Dawda feels the government should not give him, he should tell us. We are businessmen. We can give some money. Sir Dawda wasn't impressed at all. But those shows you the kind of leader he was. Not easily carried away by this kind of sentiment, and never made to lose sight of the fact that his first consideration should be the people, his own people. That was a kind of person I remember him being. As I said, I have tried very much to keep myself to just one aspect. Brought out his personality in terms of his sense of humor. One that is marked by subtlety and wit, which I have seen him use to diffuse tensions, sometimes in trouble, or to answer questions now and always. And what you, KaiaraCLO, have set yourself doing is one concrete way, not only celebrating his life, but also working, contributing to perpetuating a legacy of an issue which is of extreme importance to conservation. I therefore want to congratulate you once more and thank you for allowing me to say a few words.
Introducing His Excellency Bakari Dabo, I said Sir Dawda is a lot of things to many people. And we just got a few examples of how he conducted himself as a leader and an inspirator. Most of our guests here have worked with Sir Dawda, and there might be hundreds and thousands of anecdotes similar to what the former Vice President has expressed. And when he ended, he said, we should really celebrate Sir Dawda, and that is what KaiaraCLO is about to do. That is why we set up the organization, and we will do all we can to continue the legacy of Sir Dawda in this country. We are happy that the Minister of Justice and Attorney General is here, and I want to tell him that our organization is a non-political, non-partisan, and non-denominational organization. It is purely inspired by this declaration and the work that Sir Dawda did for this country and for Africa and the world. I'll now call on Dr. Ernest Obi to say a few words of what KaiaraCLO has been doing in this centenary year, from January 2024 to December 2024. Dr. Obi.
I would like to stand on the existing protocols that have been established, but please allow me to appreciate everybody on the high table and everybody in this hall. I see a lot of distinguished kotors and aunties and uncles who are present here. You are most welcome. But Mr. Chairman, I cannot start by not recognizing my boss at the ECOWAS Commission, His Excellency Dr. Omar Aliieu Touray, the President of the ECOWAS Commission, until I retired 2022, was my boss and still continues to lead this regional organization to transform it from an ECOWAS of state to an ECOWAS of people, the 2050 vision, and he is doing marvelously well. You are welcome, sir. Without wasting much time, I'll be giving a quick rundown on the activities of the centenary year. If our dear leader, Sir Dawda, was alive, he would have been 100 years this year. So that's why we call it Centenary year, we're observing his and celebrating his legacy. In November 2022, the ECOWAS Commission recognized Sir Dawda Kaiaraba Jawara as one of the most consequential leaders of the sub-region and the greatest champion of human rights, democracy, and the rule of law. And that under his leadership as chairman of ECOWAS 1989 to 1990 and 1991 to 1992, he worked tirelessly to address the humanitarian disasters in Liberia and Sierra Leone. The Kairaba Conservation and Leadership Organization, KaiaraCLO for short, founded in November 2022 as a company limited by guarantee. Our mission, as was said by earlier speakers, is to promote the conservation vision expressed in the Banjul Declaration of 1977 and to raise awareness about the need for environmental stewardship amongst school children and the greater Gambian population and the population of the world. Number two, to take effective grassroots actions to combat climate change through conservation and sustainable biodiversity management. And the third objective or mission is to advocate for climate justice and promote gender-inclusive climate policies and action. These three objectives are very laudable and stand in tandem with the Banjul Declaration of 1977, which was promulgated by our dear leader, His Excellency Sir Dawda Kaiaraba Jawara. Sir Dawda, more than any African leader of his generation, was an avid conservationist and raised awareness about environmental protection and the abiding duty of care we all owe to future generations to conserve the flora and fauna inherited from our great African heritage. Ladies and gentlemen, Sir Dawda's philosophy of tacito, which is self-reliance, challenges us to work together to achieve national greatness regardless of ethnicity, religion, or political party affiliation. With the Banjul Declaration of 1977, Sir Dawda inspired Gambians and people around the world with his conservation vision and philosophy of self-reliance. During his time in office, President Jawara molded generations of Gambians to serve our nation and humanity selflessly. Therefore, on May 16, 2024, KaiaraCLO formally commemorated the 100th anniversary of the birth of the first president of the Gambia, His Excellency Alhaji Sir Dawda Kaiaraba Jawara. The year-long celebrations comprise several activities conducted by KaiaraCLO. Number one, reprinting and distribution of the Banjul Declaration of 1977 to raise awareness about Sir Dawda's conservation legacy. The declaration has been distributed to both public and private individuals in this country, and the next level would be to distribute it to all the schools in this country. Number two, earlier in the year, there was a symposium on the circular economy, waste management and opportunities for transformation. This was a highly successful symposium where we had government represented through the National Environment Agency, the municipalities of KMC, civil society organizations, and other individuals participated. And our key recommendation to government is to have a working group on the circular economy, which would help to process all the waste that we generate from our homes, our offices, our businesses, into organic produce, which can be used to enhance our agriculture and livelihood. There were roundtable television discussions on Sir Dawda's leadership legacy, which covered various aspects and interventions of his legacy in the Gambia, in the region, and the world at large. Please remember, Sir Dawda was a goodwill ambassador. He was identified by the OIC to intervene in the Iraq-Iran conflict many years ago. And again, he made Gambia and Gambians proud. We also celebrated the Kairaba Conservation and Climate Action Week. During this week, we had tree planting ceremonies at the National Assembly just by Gambia High School in Banjul. We also had tree planting ceremonies here in the Kairaba International Conference Center. In addition to that, there was also a tree planting ceremony by Gambian women in leadership, in positions of responsibility, that was led by the current First Lady and also our dear mother, Her Excellency Lady Chile Jawara, which was held at the Makati Square, and with the active support of the Mayor of Banjul, who also was part and parcel of the engagement. In moving forward, we, as a body, and we need your support for these interventions, we want to establish the DK Jawara Africa Center for Climate Justice. Again, we count on the support of the government through His Excellency President Adama Barrow and his Minister of Justice present here, and also all other partners interested in the issues of climate change and climate justice. We have successfully today launched the Sir Dawda Kaiaraba Jawara Pan-African Lecture Series, and it is a singular honor for us to have the first lecture series delivered by a distinguished Gambian and a son of the soil, His Excellency Dr. Omar Aliieu Touray, President of the ECOWAS Commission, who is doing a fantastic job in our sub-region. In addition to that, we would want to establish the Sir Dawda Kaiaraba Jawara Centennial Medal of Excellence, which will be given out to people who have, through their actions, their interventions, have or continue to contribute towards maintaining the vision of Sir Dawda as expressed in the Banjul Declaration of 1997. The centenary celebration, before I conclude, we are also working with the British High Commission, the Department of Agriculture, Ministry of Agriculture, Livestock and Food Security of the Gambia, to revive the Botanical Garden in Bakau. For all these interventions, we cannot do it alone. We seek the support of the government, of the private sector, of well-intentioned Gambians, of international organizations and bodies like ECOWAS, UNEP, FAO, and the rest of them. The centenary celebration will culminate with the inaugural Sir Dawda Kaiaraba Jawara Pan-African Lecture, which shall be delivered in the Gambia by the eminent African diplomat and President of the ECOWAS Commission, His Excellency Dr. Omar Aliieu Touray, on the topic, Sir Dawda Kaiaraba Jawara, the diplomat. In his lecture, Dr. Touray will explore Sir Dawda's leadership in regional peace and security, as well as President Jawara's immense contribution to the institutionalization of democracy, human rights, and good governance in the Gambia and on the African continent as a whole. I thank you for your kind attention.
Until recently was working for ECOWAS and is a well-known scholar in agriculture. And we thank you very much. Dr. Aliieu also mentioned a few things that KaiaraCLO is planning to do. We talked about the botanical gardens in Bakau. This is a project we have consulted with the British Embassy and the other local government agencies like the Ministry of Agriculture, the National Environment Agency, and the whole lot of them. We will work in collaboration with these organizations to ensure that the botanical gardens come up to speed and would be useful to not only students but also would be of interest for tourists and thereby be a little income earning project for the Gambia government. Another big project which we have in mind, KaiaraCLO, is to establish the Sir Dawda Kaiaraba Endowment Fund. I have a gentleman here, Dr. Touray, who has worked in the same field as Sir Dawda, the field of veterinary science. And if we ask him to come here, I'm sure there are many anecdotes he can give about Sir Dawda and his time with him in that field. But we discussed this matter with the University of the Gambia, and they say this could be the stepping stone for the establishment of a veterinary school at the university. But as I say, it's in its very early stages, but these are things that we're thinking about, and KaiaraCLO will need your support to realize these objectives. Right now, our next speaker is going to be the main speaker for the evening, His Excellency Dr. Omar Aliieu Touray, sorry. I welcome all of you to this inaugural Sir Dawda Jawara Pan-African Lecture Series. My task this evening and right now is simple. It is to tell you who our invited guest speaker is and ultimately to invite him to the podium. Dr. Omar Aliieu Touray, an illustrious Gambian, was born in Farafenni on November 5, 1965. He received his first degree in, that's the Bachelor of Arts in Literature and Linguistics in 1987, and graduated 7 years later in 1994 with a PhD in International Relations at the Graduate Institute of International Studies in Geneva. One of the first Gambian career diplomats, Dr. Touray served as permanent representative to the United Nations for a year prior to being appointed Secretary of State for Foreign Affairs from March 2008 to September 2009. Before all this, Dr. Omar Aliieu Touray was the liaison officer for the World Indigenous Organization, and at the UN office in Geneva from September 1993 through December 1994. At that time, he was a consultant at the International Labour Office in Geneva. In July 1995, Dr. Touray briefly served as Senior Assistant Secretary at the Ministry of External Affairs before becoming the first Secretary at the Embassy in Brussels and the World Trade Organization in 1995. In mid-1996, he was elevated to the post of Counselor and Head of Chancery in Brussels, where he remained until April 2002, when he was promoted to Ambassador to Ethiopia with concurrent accreditation as permanent representative to the United Nations, the African Union, the United Nations Economic Commission for Africa, and the United Nations Environment Program at the same time. Dr. Touray served as Gambia's permanent representative to the United Nations in September 2007, before becoming Secretary of State for Foreign Affairs on the 19th of March 2008. After his tenure as Foreign Minister, Dr. Omar Aliieu Touray gained employment with the Islamic Development Bank in Ivory Coast and in Saudi Arabia. On October 2021, Dr. Touray was unanimously appointed as the new President of the ECOWAS Commission for a period of 4 years, 2022 to 2026. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I now have the singular honor to invite our distinguished Dr. Omar Aliieu Touray, President of the ECOWAS Commission, to deliver the inaugural lecture in the Sir Dawda Kaiaraba Jawara Pan-African Lecture Series on the topic Sir Dawda, the Diplomat.
The